sorry. But can, just for the simple use here for private people, can I just buy the germinating mix you find in the store?
Absolutely.
And then how much do I use in one of those little squares of that mix?
What I do is I just, take the mix and go up to about right here.
Oh, all
Okay?
right.
And then I'll water it. Okay, and it's going to sink down a little bit. Then I lay the seeds on top, and then I cover that with just a very thin layer, about an eighth to a quarter of an inch on top, and then I go like that. And the reason I do it that way is because I'm growing, I'll have 20, 30, 40, 50 of these things filled with seeds that I'm growing. Okay, so think big, think large scale. For you guys, if you're only growing a few plants, and what I used to do before things got out of control for me, is I would take a pencil, okay, and I poke a little hole, okay, again, quarter inch, half inch, not a half inch, quarter inch to an eighth inch deep, but generally right around a quarter inch or so, poke a little hole down in the dirt, put the seed down in that hole, and then cover it up. Well, you can see that, if you're doing, you're going to grow 10 or 15 plants, you got the time to do that. If you're growing 400 plants and you're planting 600 seeds, can you imagine how long it would take to go along and...
What do you do between 2 and 4 o'clock in the morning?
Well, I generally sleep, but, not always. Okay, so that's what I do to grow from seed. And really, why do you want to grow from seed? First of all, if you go down to the nursery or wherever you go to get your plants, the big box stores carry them now, they didn't back then.
Always same and same old.
Yeah, exactly. That's the exact point. You grow what they want you to grow. I mean, you grow the plants that they got. If they don't have what you want, then that's not a good thing. Get it? Well, the hybrids, the better boys and stuff like that are fine, but man, I like those old-fashioned beefsteaks. So that's where the heirloom part comes in. And those old-fashioned heirloom beefsteaks like Omar's Lebanese, and I've got several other varieties that I got over there. They're not down at the box store. You can get, like these days, they're curtailing. They've realized that, some people want to grow more than Big Boy and stuff, Better Boy and stuff like that. And so you will see some of the more popular, heirloom varieties, like maybe Brandywine or Cherokee Purple or something like that. You can actually buy those. And, you can go that way, but, if you want to expand that a little bit, then you go on to getting your seeds and picking out the varieties that you want to pick out.
I'm sorry, I came a little late. Did you say when you tried in this year you started the seeds?
Yes.
Will you say it again?
Which part are you?
Oh, like you plant initial planting inside?
Oh yeah. See what I do is, and I was going to cover this later. I'll do it now. Not a problem. The plant out date around here that you want to hit is May 15th. Now a lot of people go, on Mother's Day and a little earlier and stuff like that. Well, what happened last year? Didn't happen to me.
Didn't happen to me either.
Okay, there you go. So there's a couple of us it didn't happen to because we waited until May 15th. If you don't, then you go from those earlier dates, 7 years, 8 years out of 10, you'll be fine. But there'll be those 2 years,
Frost.
you'll get bit by the frost. Now, again, with a small amount, you can go out and cover them up. But when I have, 100 plants, and between peppers and tomatoes, and they're both sensitive to frost. But, I have, 40 peppers and 40 to, 80, 90, 100 plants. I can't go out there and cover that. That's too time consuming. I can't do that. So that's your plant out date. Now, so when do you start seeds? The general guideline is 6 to 8 weeks before that. Now, I know that I have outstanding growing conditions, outstanding seed starting skills. I've been doing this for a long time. So I start 7 weeks. So I go to May 15th and I count backwards 7 weeks. You guys may want to go 8 or more to be able to hit it. And like I say, once these come up, the one thing I do then, nowadays I use these guys. Okay, it's 3.5 to 3.5 to 3.5. And I can get 18 in a flat. These guys, they're kind of wobbly and it's hard to control and things like that. But again, it's fine for small grow outs, but for somebody like me, I need to get as many plants as I can, still have a proper size container to get good root development, and I'm space conscious. I need to get as much in as I can on a space by space management. Just trying to use good space management. So I've mentioned the heirlooms and I've mentioned hybrids, so it's about time I maybe clear that up a little bit. Open pollinated plants grow back true to type from saved seeds. Hybrids don't. Okay. All heirlooms are open pollinated. Heirlooms are old cultivars. Now a lot of people, they like to micromanage. Well, what does an old cultivar mean? Well, some people go by the 50-year rule, and a couple of friends of mine, noted tomato people, Carolyn Mail and Craig LaHoyer, came up with classifications. Again, you can go out and look on the internet. You'll see a bunch of definitions, but they came up with 4 classifications, and that's the family heirloom that's been passed down generation to generation in a family, like my Garrison over there at the tomato tasting. You have the old commercial varieties, the old commercials like your Bonnie Bess, and even beefsteak, not the type, but the actual variety. And many of those old ones that came from the old commercial seed providers were open pollinated. I mean, they came back true to type. Then you have your mystery heirlooms, which are created by an accidental pollination. And essentially, again, pollination of tomato plant will occur all by itself. You don't need, unlike cucurbits, you don't need bees to move pollen from one flower to another. And when they do, then if you grow multiple varieties, it can get cross-pollinated and will not come back true to type, which is the same thing as what people do when they create F1 hybrids by the store. Same thing that breeders like myself do when we're trying to create a new breed. The heirlooms will always come back true to type unless intervention occurs somehow.
How do you control that? How do you know if you're growing a couple of types?
Well, the one thing is, and I was going to bring it up later, but obviously I've gotten things a little out of order. But I was going to bring up the seed saving, and that is I save seeds early, or I save seeds late. When the bees are at minimal activity levels. Okay. So that's how I keep things pure. And again, your observational skills will always tell you, like the brandywine that I have here. Potato leaf, you save seeds from it, you grow back next year, and it's not potato leaf, that's a recessive gene. It's not potato leaf, you know that there's been a cross coming along somewhere. So that's how you can tell. The other thing is that you can bag your blossoms. Again, you can look this up on the internet and you can find like the wedding potpourri bag things that they have. A lot of people use those. Now the warning is when the cluster comes out, when you see the cluster comes out before the first flower opens. Before the first flower opens, you cover the whole cluster, and that'll prevent the bees from getting in here. but you might want to hit it with an electric toothbrush because, sometimes, it negatively impacts the fruit set. So you might have to, touch things up a little bit. And then once it's worked down the cluster and you see that the fruit's set, then you take it back. Tie string around the cluster to say, hey, this is the cluster that I want to save my seeds from. Okay, that's how you know. Okay, so now we've got everything all transplanted up. They're growing up. Now it's getting about a week, about 10 days from May 15th. So now what you got to do is harden them off. Okay, and I rushed it through. So initially, I don't now, but you got to watch it. But I can tell you, even if you get windburn or sunburn on the leaves from leaving them out too much too fast, they'll grow out of it. So that's okay. But what I do is start 20 minutes. Take them out, 20 minutes. Bring them in. Next day, 40 minutes. Next day, an hour. Next day, 2 hours. Next day, 3 hours. Next day, 5 hours. Next day, until you get to the point where you can leave them out all the time. Then they're ready for transplant. When you get ready to transplant, a lot of different ways to do it, a lot of different things, mechanisms and things that people do. You can go out and look it up on the internet. And a lot of people put a lot of different things in the hole. You can go check all that out. What I use is a post hole digger. Again, I have a lot of plants to transplant. So I use a post hole digger. I put compost in the bottom of the hole. If I'm using Epsom salt, I put a little bit of that in, a tablespoon at the most, and then I plant the plant. The most important thing to do when you transplant, the most important things to keep in mind is you want to plant them deep. So you're going to remove a couple of the lower leaves, 2 or 3 of them, off the bottom of the plant, and water them thoroughly. Water them in really, really well. Okay, next thing is dirt. Another one of my sayings. Treat your dirt right, and your dirt will treat you right. Give them good dirt to grow in. Okay, so that means amend. I use either horse manure or my compost from my compost pile. And what I do is about a month, 3 to 4 weeks before I'm going to plant out, I deep till the garden. About a week or 2 before I'm actually going to do the transplant, I cultivate in the aforementioned items. It's always a good idea, let me repeat that, it's always a good idea to get a soil test, okay, so you know where you are, what amendments you need to make. If you have any NPK issues, your nitrogen, potassium, phosphorus, you know what to go out and get and amend your soil with so that you're in good shape. The other thing is pH balance. You want to hit your pH balance around 6.5. And you can vary that a little bit, but you don't want to get it too acidic and you don't want to get it too alkaline. Soil tests will tell you all that. Extension service. They'll do the soil test. They have directions and stuff like that online. I'm not sure if it's in the bag or not that y'all got. But anyhow, the other thing I want to give you a heads up on there, it's going to take, a good 8 weeks to get your results back. So, just be prepared for that kind of time lag.